I started my question around knowing how can AI enable SREs, but it seems like this is more of a, this is more of a problem wherein it does not matter what AI does, but how prepared your organization is when AI is brought in. Hello everyone, I am Saurabh Hirani, Principal SRE at One2N.
Hi, I am Jaideep. I'm CTO at One2N.
Today we'll be talking about the implications of AI in the SRE world. Now, Jaideep, when someone talks about AI in context of software, the image that comes to mind is mostly of a code completion agent. Although SREs do, write code, do a lot of automation, there are also aspects of their work beyond this, this dimension, which is, incident management, capacity planning, alerting, observability. So, how does one scope an an AI agent in the SRE domain?
I'll try to draw parallels from a software engineer's workflow, right? A software engineer is supposed to write code, write tests, build their own CI/CD pipelines. An SRE also has to do multiple tasks, as you said, incident management, capacity planning, automation, being on call, writing RCAs. You can actually look at from a sub-agent's angle and delegate these tasks to your sub-agents. Now, these sub-agents are basically a very crisp prompt engineering where a senior SRE is able to give a brain dump given the context of an organization so that they're able to perform better.
So these sub-agents, each sub-agent will sort of map to one function that an SRE does, right? So if I have these, sub-agents deployed as a fleet in my infrastructure, essentially, can I replace? This is more of a controversial question. Essentially, can AI replace an SRE completely in a traditional organization?
No, not really, right? Because you have to understand that every organization has their own context, right? And you need to also understand how they are operating. There are certain nuances. You cannot delegate everything to an AI. That will be, for lack of better word, stupidity. Most of the times, what I have observed, at least in specifically in bigger organization, there is a knowledge hoarding by a lot of engineers or senior engineers. That kind of gives them some kind of a job security. You need to align, at least this is for the top management, to align their incentives and say that, hey, AI is more of a catalyst.
So they should not feel threatened by it.
Yes, because there is a lot of fear mongering that actually creeps in. The moment that happens, people get defensive or have their own silos and become territorial. You have observed it, right?
Yeah, we've seen this, yes.
Right. So here it is, you have to be very cautious about it. You have to say that instead of saying that AI will replace you, we say that you can enable and leverage AI to do better job,
right,
or take up an higher level work.
Right. So that also sort of opens them up to ensure that that knowledge is used in an effective way through these agents rather than them just knowing about it all the time.
Yes. There is one aspect called as responsibility diffusion, where earlier in large organization you were, at least without the AI, there were people who were responsible to it. But now, if it has been mandated that you have to use AI, and engineers use it without using their calibration and their acumen, you will try to just blame to the AI because some junior engineer in the team copy pasted it.
Yeah, I mean, they will say that this PR was raised by an AI, so it is not something that it eventually becomes the responsibility of the reviewer. So
Yes.
their neck is on the line rather
Yes.
than the person who is responsible.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, a lot of times, if you see, like, be or any AI-enabled IDs, they say, like, you use it very at your own risk and caution, right? So which means that you have to use your brain and calibrate this.
Yeah, I've also seen that in some public repositories, people actually put in these disclaimers that you have to be upfront about how much of your code has been.
Yeah, I think Ghosty is one of the
Ghosty
examples,
is
right?
yes.
Where it has been explicitly called out that, hey, if you're using up building up a feature or taking up a feature, you call it out that, hey, you have taken the help of vibe coding or AI.
So we spoke about three aspects that an organization needs to address before they adopt AI. One is to address the the ingrained problem of knowledge hoarding, to ensure that senior engineers don't feel threatened, but they use AI as a right tool to augment their expertise. The second being automation anxiety, where people feel that they are not going to be replaced by AI, but they have to leverage it in the right way. And the third being the very interesting responsibility diffusion, where one would shift the blame to AI rather than taking responsibility for it.
Hmm.
But for genuinely curious engineers who leverage AI on their day-to-day basis, do you think that their jobs will become more and more boring over time as they delegate more work to AI?
Yeah, I think a lot of times what happens is that engineers like to do the technology part. Of course,
Correct.
all of us like to do this. But I think with AI, a lot of these things can be offloaded,
Right.
right? For example, you write your infrastructure as code, you're writing up your Terraform scripts. But for that one particular engineer, it is also a good time to understand the business domain and pick up higher value work, which is more profitable to the business. Usually, SRE teams are cost centers, right? They are not profit centers. I mean, like it or not, but
Yes,
it is
that
what
is
it
the
is.
case. Yes.
This is a chance for them to actually think about and understand that, hey, which particular service actually, drives the business, right? Or which particular team is actually doing this, or can we make it better, improve the reliability there, so that a lot of these things can be taken care. No matter what I have seen, and I'm sure you have also observed that every time you go, there are teams who have a boilerplate infrastructure as code, right? But somebody who gets onboarded has to actually go through this complete cycle. So AI can possibly enable you, but that feedback loop or the cycle can be shorter, and people can actually focus what drives the business. Of course, that technology acumen still has to be there. Not denying that, but you need to actually focus mostly on the business side of the things. So if I summarize that, you can focus on more higher value work, which is actually business, and correlating it with the technology.
That's interesting because it sort of reminds me of an on-call incident that occurred to me before the advent of AI. Like, typical disk full scenario on a server, and it was like late in the night, and I woke up and I fixed it. And the next day I came to know about it that this was like a very not non-critical service. So this could have waited. This could have gone down without any business impact. So now let us assume that if AI was in the picture, and I wouldn't have been bothered by it, and I would have actually had invested my time in knowing these services and accordingly prioritizing my on calls also.
Right.
So AI not only needs organizational context, but it can also help people get more organization context by freeing them up from these mundane day-to-day boilerplate tasks.
And the cognitive load, mundane task and cognitive load. Recently, right, the AWS reInvent happened. There was this one talk by this gentleman. I'm not able to recall, but it was almost a 1 hour talk about what was the October failure that happened. Right. And at some point in time, they say that they actually leveraged Amazon Q to analyze what was actually happening. If it has to be supposedly done by a human, it would have taken up a lot of time. Right. It was more on a safe mode, but they were at least able to possibly MTT are in a shorter time.
Got it. Yeah. Right. So that's interesting. So I started my question around knowing how can AI enable SREs, but it seems like this is more of a problem wherein it does not matter what AI does, but how prepared your organization is when AI is brought in.
You have to actually think about it, because any AI will require some input to feed up. Right. And if your practices are actually not in place, example, your documentation is not there. Example, you don't have a culture of writing RCAs. You can definitely use, in fact, at one of the cases that you solved, where we improved the quality of the RCAs by using AI.
Right. And that was interesting because normally RCAs are written and forgotten by using AI, and by using like the cheapest of models to do basic RCA analysis. We were able to detect that these are vague and bad RCAs, and we are able to go back in the past and fix them. So the very fact that RCAs are malleable and they can help strengthen your runbook aspects also was very interesting. Right. It is something that one would never do. One would never revisit an RCA in the
but if you think about it, as an SRE team, every time we actually onboard with a customer, we try to gauge at what is the quality of the RCAs, or more than the quality, the understanding of the system is through the RCAs as well. Right. So, but if you have a not so up to the mark RCAs, your AI can definitely help in this. And these are also not very mission critical. This is just a very lower hanging fruits that you can
cleaning the house stuff.
Cleaning the house, or more of a janitor stuff that you can start leveraging.
Which was normally not taken up because it seemed like grunt work, low impact work. But with leveraging AI, we can actually create this foundation so that when you build tools on top of it, you don't know which RCA will be used in which sub-agents incident analysis.
That's correct, right? I mean, of course, a lot of these quality is that it's a mental model of a senior SRE in the team.
Right.
That hey, you wanna try to preach. What will you do? Let's say without an AI, there will be a senior SRE which will create up a template. That hey, this is the kind of a template. What happened? What are the timelines? What's the root cause? What are actionable? What did we learn? But a lot of these can now be generated with AI,
Correct.
as long as there is enough clear, crisp prompt that is been provided, right?
Right.
So yeah, these are at least good starting points for the teams.
Yeah.
And to think about it, right? There is that senior engineer which is more of a thinker, and then there is a younger engineer or junior engineers on the team who are also using AI to
More of doers.
right?
Right.
Who are just executing things for you. But with a given guidelines or the frames or a crisp prompt engineering, a lot of these things can be also offloaded to them, right? Asynchronously.
Right.
Yeah.
And interestingly, I mean, the last thing one would want is using AI to clean up your house and then people using AI to use the cleaned up stuff and then distill that information again. Right?
Yes.
So it can be abused also, you know.
It can be, because that's what used to happen with a lot of documents.
Right.
Right? Because documents are never updated in time to time.
Right.
Now, if they are not updated, younger folk who actually joins that SRE team, they will be always, either they go through the document, but most of the time I've observed that they don't. They're not able to follow along because of the institutional knowledge that is there and the amount of time that it takes to absorb.
That's interesting. One could also use AI for potential use cases, like if your documentation goes out of date with your architecture diagram, which every organization's architecture diagram is mostly out of date when we talk to them, right?
Right.
But one could develop tooling that maps your infrastructure to your architecture and documentation, at least detects drifts, if not fixes it, right? So these kind of things are mostly never looked at when you're looking at AI in terms of an SRE work. It is mostly action oriented in like real time fix issues.
Yeah.
But a lot of these hygiene problems could also be solved.
Could also be solved. That's a good starting point, right? At least you can actually create your architectural diagram, update it. You can, of course, definitely pipe it and then update those diagrams time to time because of the stale information, as you mentioned. So you not necessarily have to have an AI operator applying up a kubectl change.
Right.
You don't want to do that. If you are actually on the fence and you're not really confident about that particular tool in the ecosystem.
Got it. Yes. So the barrier of entry is mostly a mindset. Like one could think of it as a very high barrier of entry when you want to solve the mission critical problems, but you're scared to give access to AI. But you could also use AI in this way to create a foundation which enables other AI tools to build on top of it. Or even if you don't bring in those tools, you're getting the advantage of getting a cleaner, more structured knowledge base for your teams to build on and go ahead with them.
Right. Makes sense.
Interesting.
Yes.
Cool. I think that mostly wraps it up. Thanks, Jaideep.
Thank you, Saurabh.
But the light is still blinking. हाँ एक पे रेड लाइट आया. हाँ नहीं आ गया दोनों पे रेड लाइट आया. हाँ ठीक है दोनों रिकॉर्ड हो रहे हैं. और कैसे चेक मतलब ऐसा कंफर्म कैसे कर लोकल अच्छा डिस्प्ले पे. हाँ तो लोकल रिकॉर्ड कर रहा हूँ. हेलो हाँ हेलो हाँ ये लगाना किधर है? ये तो रिसीवर का लगाना अरे नहीं रिसीवर नहीं लगाना है उस पे लोकल रिकॉर्डिंग है.
हेलो
अच्छा ये करता है. अच्छा मतलब उसके फोन पे लगा देते हैं.
ठीक है ना.
इसका डॉक्यूमेंटेशन हमारे तो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन डॉक्यूमेंटेशन है इसकी नहीं. नेक्स्ट टाइम तो जाएगा उस वाले डॉक्यूमेंट करके जाएगा. मम्मी ऐसे जब भी हम मार्केटिंग बोल रहे हैं हाँ ये कर लेंगे गू करते हैं. मैं ही करता हूँ.
सारे One2N Bits में देखता हूँ अच्छे बने. They look professional. Insights are cool. हाँ मैं वही कह रहा हूँ. तो ऐसा तो आइटरेशन से ही आता है हर चीज का ऐसा ही खेल है.
चलो जी.
From the top.
ये माइक से जा रहा है. हाउ डू यू नो? पक्का चल ठीक है।
ठीक है।
आपके उस पे एक बार देखो तो रेड लाइट आ रहा है ना, दूसरे side से।
हाँ है ना, ये देख यहाँ आ
है
रहा
ना?
है, यहाँ ग्रीन आ रहा है, वहाँ रेड आ रहा है।
चल,
हाँ
AC on करो।
नहीं करना है,
नहीं जरूर।
कंपनी देगी मेरी ठंड
अभी
से।
छोड़, मेरे को भी ठंडी लगती है जल्दी। हाँ बोल। ओके हेलो एवरीवन, सब तो नींद में कर लेंगे। मैं मेरी बीवी को मिलूंगा, मैं कहूंगा हेलो आई एम सौरभ हिरानी, प्रिंसिपल SRE।
तेरा पार्ट स्टार्ट करना है। ओ तेरी जय बात, ठीक है ओके चलो।
हेलो एवरीवन, आई एम सौरभ हिरानी, प्रिंसिपल इंजीनियर। वही हट गया।
ठीक है
चलो ठीक है। हाँ नहीं